Right, what we doing?
Too late already. It's too late by going feral.
Cool. Okay, I'll just fire into this. So yeah, Going Feral are an instrumental post-rock and metal band from Yorkshire, Leeds and Huddersfield specifically, and are made up of members Robert Burns, Yuri Kozorizov on guitars, and Alex Diffley on drums. Um, So in their press release, the band name check the likes of kind of Mogwai and Caspian, alongside the likes of La Dispute and Mastodon. So which I think kind of covers the extent of their sound because it's a mixture of like post post rock, post hardcore, and like progressive metal. So it probably covers um, their various sounds. So Too Late, Already It's Too Late is their second single, released at the end of January this year. And it follows their debut single, Ghoul Rebellion, which came out in May 2020. Um, so whilst Ghoul Rebellion brings the riffs and clobbering heaviness straight from the off, Too Late, It's Already Too Late is a far more contemplative affair, beginning with sort of muted guitar picking and that slowly builds before the drums kick in at the 45-second mark with a really satisfying bassy thud and up-tempo cymbals that juxtapose the slower pace in the guitars. Um, I mean, this track is nearly 10 minutes long, so it is very long, but it does a decent job of steadily building up in both intensity and density with kind of layers of sort of crooning ethereal guitars and changing drum patterns as it goes along. There is a relatively abrupt change at the sort of 4.5 minute mark where all the instruments kind of fall away and
It's just
the
the drums,
drums,
isn't it?
yeah, the drums, it just leaves the drums and they sort of form a transition into a sort of new segment which brings in more guitar riffs. There's one that sort of chugs away while the other kind of scatters itself over the top, which is quite cool. Like I said, the transition is quite abrupt, but I quite like the drums in that transition, so I'm not too bothered. You get the return of those kind of crooning guitars and the sort of solo over the riffs before giving way to there's a wee bit of a cool off period about 6.5 minutes. Um, and the intensity of the drums comes back there, and that's the thing that kind of hooked me in was the drums there, and they sort of smash and shudder, and you can hear the guitars like kind of rasping and growling in the background, and that kind of builds and builds, and towards the end just becomes this really intense kind of cacophony of sound. And I think the last few minutes of this are really good. And it reminds me of something like, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Deaf Heaven, but they do sort of clean post rocky kind of instrumental music, but with black metal vocals over the top. So I kind of
Right.
find myself while I was listening to it, kind of imagining the black metal vocals coming in. It's not. I'm not suggesting that there should have been vocals there. It was just kind of the mood and vibe that kind of passage created for me. It just reminded me of that band, and I could almost hear the vocals, which is a bit weird, but um, yeah, I quite like this. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it as well. As you said, it is a long song, just under 10 minutes long, and I suppose we've previously covered Icatan, which is twice as long.
Yeah.
Um, so it does kind of seem as if it's going to be a bit of an undertaking, but I think there's enough changes in there. There's enough kind of textures and layers to keep you interested. I found it to be quite an atmospheric piece. Really enjoyed the guitars in this. The kind of noodling, little guitar arpeggios layered in there. I thought that was really quite cool. Um, yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, man.
I think you mentioned Icatan. Obviously, they're both sort of instrumental post rock and metal bands, but I think and there are similarities in that they've both got some sort of shoegazy elements to their sound, but Icatan take a more kind of classic rock, heavy metal kind of approach, whereas Going Feral are more like sort of post-hardcore kind of that sort of direction. Um, like I'm not saying one's better than the other. It's
No.
just for comparison. That's how they sort of differ in their approach to this kind of instrumental rock and metal kind of thing. Um, what would you rate this?
I've given it a 6 or 7.
I've given it an 8, and it's just I just really like. I think it's just got a really good payoff. I think you put a lot of time into it, and then the end is so good for me that I'm just like, I I think you kind of get rewarded for listening to it if that's if that's your thing. If it's not your thing, then you'll be like, well, fuck off. Just wasted 10 minutes. But yeah, I really like it.
Cool.
Cool. So it was it's too late. It's already too late by Going Feral. The reason.
It's not finished. It's finished.